Are you getting a little bit bored with these really high car prices and these truck prices and Jeeps and electric vehicles, and hearing the average transaction price is now crested over 50 grand? Kelly Blue Book, I shared that here this week, how they're now saying that the average transaction price has gone over 50 grand. Yeah, things are pretty expensive these days. I'm not even going to BS you. Like, we're all in this together. Trust me. I'd love to find myself a new truck, maybe a new car. My old 2003 Ram is still hanging on by a thread. But you know what? There comes a time when we need to buy something new. I mean, we can keep fixing the old stuff, and I love fixing my truck, and I love that truck dearly. It owes me nothing, and it's absolutely a great vehicle. But there comes a time when you need something new, something different, maybe more affordable. Of course, is what we're all looking for, because at $50,000 for a runabout that's going to see these pothole laden roads, is salt that they throw on the roads every year because we live in the prairies, or those of you in the northern states where they throw salt all over the roads, to keep the roads clear of ice. That salt just chews away on the underside. So why would you want to buy a $80,000, $90,000 vehicle just to watch all of that bottom of that vehicle just rot out? It's like an old horror movie, when you see like the melting face, that cheap candle wax they used from the horrors back in 1975. Well, that's what the underside of these new cars look like, or at least that's what it feels like to me. So anyway, all jokes aside, everybody, I've got a list here, actually. A list of the cheapest cars that, honestly, and I'm going to give them a look. I've done some research. I've pulled together a list of some vehicles that are still kind of affordable. And guess what? Most of them pretty much not electric, because a lot of people are kind of done listening to all this electric talk. You go search, go all over and do the research, and there's so much talk about what Tesla's doing here and what Tesla's doing there. And you know what? Maybe not everybody wants that. Some people just want a simpler, any kind of vehicle, whether it's electric or whether it's ICE, it doesn't matter, but simple, affordable. And so I've got a list of 15 vehicles here that you can actually get still today that are relatively cheap. And I'll say cheap because I would consider, for a new vehicle, this quite cheap, actually. So why don't we start with this? Why don't we start with the most expensive? And I'll tell you what I think. I'll give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, whether I would buy them. But according to my research, these are the cheapest ones you can get right now. 15 vehicles in 2025 that you can buy and not feel like you're getting hosed by, the tax man. Not feel like you're getting hosed in some way by, like your boss pushing your thumb on your forehead saying, hey, get this done, get this done. At least with these vehicles, you feel like, you're getting a bit of a break. The boss is backing off. The tax man's not in your way, and clearly paying these kind of dollars, it's somewhat affordable. And I know I'm on a bit of a tangent here, but let's be honest. I think we're all a little bit tired of $80,000 SUVs and $110,000 trucks. So sometimes you need those, but sometimes you don't. And so why don't we start with the most expensive and work our way to the cheapest car on the list? And we'll start with number 15, or we'll call it number 1. A 2025, and remember, they're all 25s, Honda Civic at $25,400. 25 grand, $400. Now, that's not a cheap car by any means, but it's kind of affordable when you consider, where everything else is, when you're dealing with the fact that that's half of the average transaction price today. That's right, a new Honda Civic. Some of these you could still get in a manual. Civic, they've always had a good reputation. And it's not a total garbage box car either. Like, the Civics have grown in proportion. And you see Civics today are more like Camrys or Corolla or a Honda Accords from 20 years ago in terms of size. So they're a good size car now, even though they're considered a compact or subcompact, whatever. Honda Civic's pretty reliable car, $25,400. The next one's actually one of my favorites, not just because of the price, but because we've been seeing the quality. I mean, they can rust with some years under them, but they're actually a pretty reliable car. Now, I've got some people I know that have owned some of these, and certainly there seems to be a little bit more troubles around sort of some of the technology, lane keep assist, pedestrian warning, and those kind of things. Automatic braking systems. Almost too much tech overload, but it's still a reliable car. The engine, the transmission, with a 2.5-liter four-banger, you can get a front-wheel drive and a manual gearbox for base bones. You can also step up, spend a little bit more to get all-wheel drive and a 2.5-liter four or a turbocharged 2.5-liter. And they're pretty good cars. From what I've seen and driven them, they're fun to drive. They look pretty cool. But even better is the price. $25,335 for a base price Mazda 3. That's right, the Mazda 3. Again, you can get a front-wheel drive with a manual. That's a fun little driver. The next one on the list is one that I think is kind of a junky slush box, but some people like the way they look. And you know what? The price is right, so it might be worth taking a chance if you want something from a luxury car brand. That's right. It's not necessarily a luxury car, but it's a luxury car brand. And at $25,195, you can carry around that key fob and say, hey, look at me. Look. You can say, look, I have a luxury car brand key, but it's not one of these, of course, because those cost too much money. And say you drive a luxury car, a Buick Envista for $25,195. The next one is basically its brother. Let's pull this out of here. And it's one of these. See this? Chevy. That's right. Chevy is another one you can get for $24,890, and that you can get a Chevy Trailblazer. Great pick. Little SUV, small little thing, but again, for 25 grand, that's actually technically under half of the transaction price today as listed by Kelly's Blue Book. The next one is Volkswagen Jetta, $23,720. $23,700 for a base Jetta, German import vehicle. Yeah, they've got their reliability challenges, but you know what? Hey, you can get a brand new Volkswagen for 23 and change. The next one is a Toyota Corolla sedan. Boring, vanilla yogurt, CVT, 170 horse or thereabouts. But you know what? For $23,545, Toyota Corolla, it represents a good buy. And definitely one of the most reliable cars on the market. Boring is vanilla yogurt, but it'll get you around. The next one is a Hyundai Elantra for $23,320, followed quickly by a Nissan Kicks by $23,220 for a Nissan Kicks. Very basic, very simple, but cheap. I mean, if you need a commuter car, that works. Kia K4. I saw one the other day and I was actually impressed. I like the way they look. To me, I think they're punching above their weight class. Sure, they put slap together these cheap wheels on there and they don't give you a sunroof, but hey, for $23,165, you can get into a brand new Kia K4. Actually, not a bad buy, really. Nissan Kicks Play is another one for $22,910. So again, you'll notice Nissan is offering up some of these affordable price point vehicles, and that's great. How about the next one, the Nissan Sentra, another little subcompact, $22,730. CVT transmissions, but they're reliable enough otherwise. Take care of that, don't floor it off the start and you're good. Another one is, this one's a little bit of a crap box in my own personal opinion, but for $21,895, you can get into a brand new Chevy Trax. Might be worth a look. If you like your domestic products, it's basically like almost a Buick Encore, that small, narrow little SUV, but they're cheap for 21 grand and change. Why not? Take a look. Kia Soul, same thing. $21,895 for a base Kia Soul. And the Hyundai Venue, this is where it gets kind of gross. I think for the extra 1,000 or two, there's a couple nicer models than this, but Hyundai Venue is a very, very basic little unit for $21,650. And the drum roll, please. Okay, I don't care if drum rolls. Nissan Versa. $21,130. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you like any of these? Are any of them worth your time? I know there's a couple here I would look at. I like the K4. I like the Mazda 3 and the Honda Civic. Those are my personal faves. But I'd like to hear your thoughts. Any of these kind of tickle your fancy for under $25,000? You can still get a pretty decent car for under 25 grand. Anyway, I hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. Thanks again so much. Bye-bye.